Hello and welcome once again to Fox Sports Lab. I'm Matthew Campbell. I'm joined by Jaymz Clements. We are down to 4 teams. We're down to conference championship games. James, we're down to 4. No real surprises with a couple, but we had a couple of crazy games in the last week's when we only had 8 left. In particular, I couldn't work out the Chiefs and the Bills. It looked as though it was going to go down to the last score. Then we had some amazing plays. And in the end, the missed punt cost the Bills the game and a chance at the Super Bowl.
I'll tell you what, Tyler Bass. Yeah. That's not a name you want to hear too much in Buffalo right now, Matty. I'll tell you that much. But what do we got? We've got 4 of the best teams in the NFL left. You feel pretty good about each of them, I think, right? And this is what you sort of look at. You look at a team like the Bills that we knew was very flawed, that had sort of really big holes on defense. And it's kind of nice to at least go into this championship weekend with teams that you feel like ought to be there. Obviously, you got 2 1 seeds, a couple of other high seeds, obviously, as well. But it's a really nice setup. And last week, I mean, Green Bay gave the Niners all they could handle, Matty. That was awesome, wasn't it? Jeez, I was, propped up with a front bar in a pub in country Victoria. It was fantastic with my old man. He's like, "What's happening?" I'm like, to be honest, I don't think you, me, or anybody knows what's going to go on in this game. So the way that the Niners pulled that out was pretty impressive. Detroit, same sort of vibes as well, right? They sort of almost gave up the ghost a little bit late. But I think we got the 4 best teams through, Matty, and that's all we can ask from a championship weekend.
Yeah, and I think looking ahead, we won't discuss it now, but Green Bay will be pretty pleased with their season, given how young their team is and what their future holds. They've rebuilt very, very quickly at the Packers. But let's get to, firstly, to the AFC Championship game. The Ravens, as expected, got it done, in particular in the second half last week. It's a 5.5-point spread against the Chiefs, who, as we've discussed a few times on this program throughout the year, look to have more options in offense last week against the Bills. We know that Kelsey got a couple of touchdowns, but Pacheco keeps being a great running option for them. So in Mahomes' first away playoff game, they won away. Can they do it again?
This is it, Matty. I mean, when we looked at that Chiefs game last week against the Bills, I did tip the Chiefs, as underdogs, and that's probably where I'm going to lean for this one as well. But you hit on a great name in there, Isaiah Pacheco. He runs like he's angry at the ground. I love it. I absolutely love it. He's got those high knees. He's cramming through everybody. He's 225 pounds. You try and stop him. No. I mean, this is the thing. Baltimore, I think the defense that we saw last week against the Texans, they are uniquely positioned, I think, to probably beat this KC team. But when it all comes down to brass tacks, like I just have this simple sort of adage now. We've seen it. They've gotten through Buffalo. In Buffalo, Patrick Mahomes is now won on the road for the first time in his playoff career and not in a Super Bowl. If it's not Tom Brady on the opposite side from Patrick Mahomes, I'm probably just going to pick Patrick Mahomes because all he does is win, win, win no matter what. Like, that's how we are. But this is 6 straight AFC title games for Mahomes. It's crazy. Gets his first playoff road win. This is also the first time Baltimore have hosted the AFC title game since they were the Colts a million years ago. So I think it's the first time as the Ravens they've hosted an AFC title game. They were the 4 seed back when they won in 2012, so they didn't host it that year. You've got 2 really good offenses, obviously, in Baltimore and KC. That's what you'd think. KC's offense has been horrible, Matty. You hit on it, right? It's like they've got some big holes in this offense. It's weirdly enough actually 2 really good defenses. So
exactly.
That's the weirdest aspect of this because you'd sort of look at both of them and go, KC, dominant offense. It hasn't been that way all year. We know that. They're ranked at 15th, I think, overall in points per game. Baltimore, surprisingly, are actually up there in 4th. But that's because, I mean, we've talked about this time and time throughout this season. Baltimore sort of open up that pass game. Lamar's been fantastic. He's probably going to win the MVP. Yeah. And I think what we'll see here now is this sort of the arm wrestle, right? You've got 2 of the best defenses. Ravens were first in points allowed per game at 16.5. Chiefs were second, 17.3. Interestingly enough to me, this sort of comes down to like the QBs, how they deal with those defenses. Because you had, I think the Ravens were first in sacks this season as well.
Yeah, their pass rush will be stronger than what they got against Buffalo, KC.
Exactly, right? So the Chiefs actually, their pass rush, 57 sacks for this season. So the thing is, what you'll end up seeing, I think, Baltimore, Lamar, we saw him run all over the top of the Texans last week. I think you'll probably see a little bit of the same thing here because KC, I think it's ranked 27th in rush defense in DVOA. And in terms of the estimated points allowed, 28th. So you can run on KC. We sort of know that. We saw the Bills do it. The Bills obviously a really good running team, but they did run right over the top of them. Josh Allen, this is my key sort of aspect for this. Lamar Jackson, better rusher than Josh Allen for the most part. And we saw Josh Allen get in there for 2 touchdowns last week. And he carried the ball 12 times, 72 yards, pair of touchdowns. I think Lamar will do similar to this one. I think Lamar gets in for a touchdown.
Yep.
I think we probably see the points total just creep over the 44.5-point line, because I think even as good as these defenses are, like Baltimore, there's not much slowing them down on offense. So I think, and if you don't think Mahomes can sort of manufacture like 20 points out of nothing, I've got a bit of beachfront property out there in near Alice Springs to sell you. So I think this entire vibe is we'll have a few sort of like sneaky scores. Probably Pacheco gets in. Lamar probably gets in. We'll probably get the over, but I'm still going to go the Chiefs plus 3.5, because this at least covers you for a really close game, which I think we'll end up with just because of the sheer quality of these defenses. But that 44.5 line, this sort of screams to me 24-21. We sneak over the over and the Chiefs cover, even if they lose. Because I think this Baltimore team, they've just looked so good, so balanced on both sides of the ball. But I can't go against a bloke who's 9-1-1 against the line when he's an underdog in his career. Like, simple as that. As I said, if it's not Tom Brady on the other side from the Chiefs, I'm going to go with Mahomes plus 3.5.
All right, it sounds about right to me. Let's go to the other game where the 49ers, as expected, are very short price favourites. The spread here is about a converted touchdown, depends on where you're looking. Detroit have won 2 playoff games, which is more than they've won since 1957. They won one back in the 80s or something. I mean, they've had a good year. Dan Campbell's had a good year. Goff's had a good year. Surely, with the smooth and the Kyle Shanahan sort of don't panic if things go wrong offense we've seen under Brock Purdy, surely there's no upset here.
Well, we sort of thought that last week with Green Bay. and they went in to, Levi Stadium and put the smackdown on the Niners for most of that game. And that's probably one of the big concerns about this, right? Is like you'd sort of look at that Niners defense and go, right, is that endemic of what we're sort of expecting throughout the rest of this playoff run? Or was that sort of one of those sort of one-game dips where they've had a bit of a week off and like the Green Bay offense was on an absolute heater over the last like 5-6 weeks? So I'd probably lean towards the latter. My biggest concern probably in this game is obviously the Detroit defense rather than the Niners one. You have 2 very good offenses, obviously, in San Francisco, who are ranked 3rd. You got Detroit ranked 5, both averaging over 27 points a game, obviously. Yeah. But the Lions defense just isn't that good. Like, we've talked about Dan Campbell being fantastic this season. They just gave up 408 yards to the Bucs and I think 425 for the Rams the week before. So they're giving up big chunk plays, and that's a key thing against the Niners, isn't it? Like where they've got just these absolute superstars. We know that Deebo Samuel's banged up. He might not play. And that's why I'm going to look at Brandon Ayuk. He's the dude who keeps getting forgotten about, Matty. No one knows why. He's an absolute weapon. But when you've got 4 other awesome weapons on this offense, of course, there's going to be somebody who misses out. So we saw Kittle be really good last week. Kittle has these sort of games every so often. It's like where he turns into Gronk 2.0 and you're like, this is fantastic. But Ayuk probably, I think Deebo will probably try to get out there. And I think we'll see the Lions make sure they try to cover Deebo. I think Ayuk gets off the hook, though. He's gone for over 100 yards in 7 games this year. And he's top 50, I think, it's about 15 of the games. So you could probably split the middle there and go over 75 yards for Ayuk. I'd probably go the over 104.5. But this is the big thing. The Lions defense, it literally is top ranked against the run. So you'll probably steer clear of McCaffrey is my vibe for this, at least for his yardage. I'd look at his maybe in for a touchdown because we know he can catch the ball as well.
Yeah.
Baker threw for nearly 350 yards on them. Stafford threw for 375. I expect Brock Purdy to throw for plenty. Looking at Ayuk, looking at McCaffrey in the air, and the Niners sort of just to get over the top of them. I'm pretty wary, though, of the line, Matty. As you sort of said, the touchdown is like 6.5. What I would look at for this game is probably the Niners to win, just head-to-head. The Niners total points over by themselves as well, which is around 28.5. Sort of get to that 28.5 mark. That sort of covers you at least for the Lions maybe falling apart. The Niners defense really asserting themselves. But we know the Lions can move the ball themselves too. So look, Ayuk anytime touchdown, Ayuk over 74.5 or over that 104.5. Either or, I'd probably lean towards the bigger number for Ayuk just because I think when he goes big, he goes really big. So I think the Niners probably get this done. It could be a fascinating setup, though, if the Lions can sort of move the ball. We saw the holes that Jordan Love was hitting last week. Can Jared Goff do it, though? That's a big question for me, Matty. Like, when he's at home, he's fantastic. He's got a 42-9 touchdown to interception ratio. In a 17 away games, though, it's 17-10. So that's a big drop-off, isn't it? So outside, we know he's an indoor cat, Jared Goff. I just think the Lions probably don't have enough. I think the Niners win this. And I think, look, the line is just a little bit too squirrely, but if you had to push it, it's probably the Niners -6.5, because just that upside for that offense is always going to be there. And we know that their defense can step up, whereas the Lions, it's all offense, not much defense,
Well, there you have it. The 49ers through to the Super Bowl, probably the Ravens, but the Chiefs a good bet at the plus in what should be probably the most fascinating game out of the two. Mate, we're out of time as always, but two good games to look forward to. But the one I'm looking forward to is next time we speak, we're talking Super Bowl.
All Super Bowl all the time. Look, to be honest, I think it'll be Niners, and I think it'll be KC. Like, this Baltimore team's really good, Matty, but I just think, look, that's why I'm going to take those KC points, right? I just feel like I can't go against them. They might fall short, but even like we just never get one seeds going head to head in the Super Bowl. So just trying to sort of look at that one and try to sort of pick out which one might fall short. But still, two awesome games, I'll tell you that much.
Well, if anyone can do it, Patrick Mahomes can. Mate, good to talk as always. Talk to you next time for Super Bowl.
You win some, you lose more. For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.